49ers survive against the Packers. 2023 NFL Divisional Playoffs. That's the best way you can put it. They escape at home with the win against the Packers. The number 1 seed against the number 7 seed, and they were outplayed by the Packers, out-coached by the Packers. I feel the Packers deserve to win this game. And no, I was not taking the Packers lightly. I mean, how could you after that Cowboys game last week? And I don't think the 49ers were taking the Cowboys lightly. But Shanahan, this was a bad game. Offense, especially Brock Purdy, bad game. I mean, all the phases, defense had its problems. Special teams, I mean, they're not special. And special teams has been a problem over the years for the 49ers again and again and again. I'm not going to get into the stats. We'll get into the stats and the real specifics of the game when we do the full divisional round review. But for tonight, they're just my thoughts after the game. I mean, Purdy was as bad as we've ever seen him. Was it the rain? I think it was certainly a factor. He was going back and forth, using the glove, not using the glove. His footwork, his accuracy was so far off. I mean, the problem was he was missing receivers. He was missing receivers high. He was missing receivers low. When McCaffrey went out as a receiver, he had a bunch of receptions, but he couldn't do anything because even when he caught it, Purdy's passes were so inaccurate and they were late that the Packer defender was right on top of him, and that was an area the 49ers couldn't take advantage of. I'll get to some positives. I will get to some positives, but defense. No one on the defensive line showed up except for Nick Bosa. He had 5 quarterback hits. That's what I saw in the box score. He made some good plays against the run and Aaron Jones. But the other 3, where were you? I'll give Arik Armstead a break because from what we know, he's just playing and he's playing hurt after missing 6 of the last regular season games. But so I'll say Kinlaw, Hargrave, and Chase Young. Where were you? What happened? Chase Young was just bad. And I was underwhelmed by his performance. Not just tonight, but I've been underwhelmed by Chase Young's performance for a while now. He looked good when he first came over, but Nick Bosa is not getting any help from these other guys. He's not getting any help on the other end at all. I mean, you miss Samson Ebukam, you miss Charles Omenihu. These guys were better than what we're getting from Chase Young. Linebackers were good. I mean, the 2 interceptions by Greenlaw, except get down, man, get down. And then Fred Warner was very solid. I mean, Fred Warner was good. Secondary, Ward was good, but the penalties and Ambry Thomas had one rough game. Getting back to the offense, I'm really just putting on Purdy, and then up front, the offensive line did not have a great day. Or night in this case. I mean, the rain was a part of the game that hurt the 49ers. I thought would have been more in the 49ers' favor because you're like, well, if one of these teams is going to run the ball better, it'd be the 49ers, right? Wrong. Packers ran the ball better. Jordan Love was more comfortable in the rain than Purdy. And, Kyle Shanahan really got conservative. And it felt like, Purdy was playing like a bad version of Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what I was seeing out there. Man, it was bad. feet, the inaccuracy. I mean, you look at the box score and you say, well, no interceptions. He should have got picked on several plays. I mean, the Savage, it should have been a pick six there. He's throwing balls in heavy traffic. That's what Howie was talking about, Howie Long at halftime. Some balls, other balls that could have potentially been intercepted. This was just ugly on so many levels for a win, because I was bracing myself for a loss here. I was prepared for a loss, and I was going to do an episode on the 10 most painful 49ers playoff losses, and I was like saying to myself, where was this going to, in the fourth quarter, where was this one going to rank? Top 5? No. Top 10? Yeah, it would have been, with being the number one seed and the number one seed losing to a hot team, yes, but they're still the 17. The last team in the NFC to make it, the 7th seed. And it's one thing if you lose in 95 divisional against the Packers. That was Brett Favre, who was the MVP. With all due respect to Jordan Love, he's not the MVP yet. As good as he's played, as hot as he's been, Jordan Love is still a very young quarterback. And an inexperienced one at that. I mean, who played well on offense? Well, Debo's injury was a factor, but when Debo got hurt and we saw he wasn't coming in, I was just like, no excuses. You're the number one seed. You're at home. No excuses. You still got McCaffrey, Kittle, and Ayuk. That is more than most teams have. And we're still learning about Purdy. We are. And I'm not going to overreact again about the greatest of games. That's what I said about the Packers and Cowboys. I'm not going to overreact over the worst of games, but it's concerning, all right. And, Brock Purdy had the opportunity to shut up his critics, and he really didn't in this game. Yeah, the box score made it look better than it was, but, again, just look at it with your own eyes. It was arguably the worst performance he's had. I think he played worse than he did in the Ravens game. I really do, because the Packers defense, they're well coached. They were prepared. They played well. But this wasn't the Ravens defense. No, this is a good but not a great defense. Ayuk, very quiet game, but I feel like it's more on Purdy. Kittle, he just didn't get the ball well enough. He had a good game. I want more from Kittle. McCaffrey was good, not great. And Shanahan got very conservative with play calling. And he didn't even hand the ball off to... I knew Mason wasn't going to get any action. I mean, that's predictable. He didn't even give it to Mitchell one time. It was all McCaffrey as your running back. Juwan Jennings stepped up. Juwan Jennings really stepped up, and you got to give it to him. I don't think they win that game without Juwan Jennings picking up some big first downs and at times bailing out Purdy. The Packers, you look at them, and though Love threw the 2 picks, he played better than Purdy. Aaron Jones had a bigger game than McCaffrey, and both of them had huge runs. Not one of the receivers had monster games, but, Love again distributed the ball well. The offensive line did a good work. And the receivers for the Packers blocked very well. That was pointed out on the telecast. Maybe the thing that bothered me the most in the whole game was not the players on the field. It was Kyle Shanahan. Is he a very good coach? Yes. He is a very good coach in the league. Top 5, yes, I would say a top 5 coach. But, and this is a big but, what is with the time clock management before halftime? You're in a position to get, at worst, a close field goal. Instead, I believe it was a 48-yarder, a no sure thing in the rain, and you don't have the most confident rookie kicker going either. And they let so much time come off the clock. And I'm sitting there thinking, we got enough time to go down there for a touchdown. Instead, we have to settle for a long field goal because of mismanagement with the clock. And then after halftime, where they get the ball back, so they get nothing before halftime, then you have a play that's a handoff to Jawan Jennings. It's just like, did you forget your personnel, Kyle? I mean, this sounds like a lot of complaining. The 49ers did win. I should give the final score. It was 24-21. They did win the game, but man, that was about as bad of a win as you could have. They didn't start looking like themselves on offense until the very end of the game. The defense in the first half was really bend, not break. And I didn't like what happened with the defense. I thought they could have been far more creative with the rush and mix things up to try and get more pressure. Jordan Love was still too comfortable. I mean, did anyone even touch? I mean, it just didn't feel like, and I don't have the box score in front of me, did anyone even get in on Love besides Bosa? Probably did. It was just disappointing because, sounds like a bunch of whining, but this just isn't good enough. And this isn't going to cut it. It may cut in the NFC, but this isn't going to cut it against the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens got off to a slow start, sure, but then they got together in the second half and they looked like the dominant Ravens team. That didn't happen with the 49ers. It didn't, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Yeah, you advanced the conference championship game again. And a win is a win. I'm grateful that a win is a win. But, man, I was shaking my head most of the night. And I'm still shaking my head now. Saying, what was with the decision making? What was with the coaching? And I don't know what to say about Purdy's performance out there. And the concern, and a lot of our concerns are still there for the 49ers, was special teams. And then, they gave up the long kick return. Didn't even mention that. You had that. And then the run defense. I mean, Aaron Jones they couldn't really slow him down. The 49ers didn't come out like the Cowboys did. They were more physical, yeah. And a big part of the win was that the defense held in the first half, and the Packers had to settle for a couple field goals. But just squeaking out a win, escaping at home as they did with, what would you call this? A C- performance? I don't think I'd give it any higher than a C-. D plus C- performance. They win. Okay. The Packers are an ascending team. I accept that. I'm disappointed. This is supposed to be Super Bowl year, and if you're going to play like that, I expect more that they're not going to play like that next week. You may not make it to the Super Bowl. You can make the argument that the Packers were the hardest team for them to face left in the NFC playoffs. That may be true. You can't have another game like that. And I want the 49ers to take the ball first and score. Show some confidence in your offense. And that's another decision. The 49ers like to defer, and the Packers just go down the field. Thankfully, the 49ers stopped them. They had to sell for 3, and the Packers also had the missed field goal. Both teams had the block on Moody, and then the Packers kicker, he missed his field goal. But Jordan Love, I have to applaud him and Matt LaFleur. Though they lost, great effort, great performance. It was just unfortunate for him that he decided to throw that ball across the field, and that was very Brett Favre-ish. I mean, just think of the championship game against the Saints. Throwing across the field, you're asking for a turnover. You're asking for an interception. And the guys with the elite arm strength are willing to do it sometimes. It was something Rodgers would do too. You're not supposed to do that. And I don't remember it killing the Packers or burning the Packers big time with Rodgers doing it. Of course, I remember Favre doing it more than Rodgers. Rodgers would do it. I don't remember him losing a game over it. Packers fans may remember differently. I'm not aware of it. But Jordan Love's interception, just because he didn't have to rush, and then he throws it across the field. And if Greenlaw didn't pick it off, then Warner would have picked it off. So concerns for the 49ers. I mean, yes, okay, they won. And I'm glad they won. But concerns going forward are, well, the health of Deebo Samuel. Because offense did change. He's so physical. We'll have to see. I haven't heard anything to this point about his status or what they think the extent of his injury may be. But he didn't come back after halftime. I think the defensive line, both with, just so disappointing Chase Young, both with rushing the quarterback and stopping the run. I mean, these are problems. And the special teams, Moody made some kicks. Yeah, he had the one that was blocked. But I'm still concerned with that. And they gave up the long kick return. And the 49ers have defeated the Packers because I talked about in the other episode, the earlier one, the rivalry. And this was a record 10th time that they've faced off in the playoffs. And the 49ers have made it 5 straight. I just never thought I'd see a day. I would have been happy with the one win against the Packers. It was 12, 13, 19, 21, and now 24. And it's a heartbreaking loss for the Packers. I mean, I'm talking about being disappointed as a 49ers fan. But that's a heartbreaking loss. They should have won. And, Jordan Love was so good. And for so long, he was not turning the ball over. He was, again, not just simply what they call a game manager. I'm so sick of hearing about game managers. Who is and who isn't. But he was making the big plays, and the thing was, for the most part, I mean, there were a couple big plays, and the field was a problem for the 49ers more than the Packers. They got some open guys, thanks to that. But Love could have just taken his time. They still had more time, and they could have set up a potential winning touchdown, or excuse me, most likely not a touchdown, but they didn't take any chances. I mean, why would you not just throw it up even and take a shot one-on-one down the field the way they were going at times in this one? I don't know. But he throws it, across his body, middle of the field, which just is a no-no for quarterbacks. Even if you have good arm strength, as Brett Favre, as we said, we mentioned what happened with him. Rodgers would do it at times too. Because if Greenlaw didn't pick it off, Warner was going to probably pick it off. That's 5 straight playoff wins for the 49ers over the Packers. And the Packers, again, disappointing because they had executed their game plan. I mean, that long first drive, I mean, that was half the quarter right there, and keep the ball out of the 49ers' hands. I mean, that was the formula they had against the Cowboys, except they had to settle for 3 instead of getting in the end zone. So many things went right, yet they lost. Quarterback played sharp, especially in the first half. Your running back was great. Your defense more than did its job and held up. But they have a bright future. They do, and maybe you hear that too often. I get tired of hearing that, or, oh, this quarterback, he's going to be great for years and years and years, and then it doesn't exactly work out that way. Or this guy's going to be a star player for years and years and years. I mean, how many times do you hear that during a broadcast? But when you look at Jordan Love, he has all the tools. It's just about getting experience. It's about avoiding the big mistake, and this was his first year of playoffs, and he looked like a younger quarterback today. And they were going to cool off eventually. They really were going to cool off eventually, but they've drafted in the last 2 seasons as good as any team in the league, probably better than any team in the league. They're just going to add to it. They're going to get better because you look at Jordan Love, he has all the physical tools. He's got size, he's got excellent arm strength. He can make the difficult throws. He's accurate. He's athletic. And that group of young receivers, and they've got players on defense. I mean, the Lions, you got to try and get it done this year, because Packers are going to be really good. I mean, they're just going to get better going into next season. The 49ers, they'll get the Buccaneers or the Lions for the championship game. The Ravens beat the Texans, and then tomorrow you've got Lions, Buccaneers in Detroit, and then the evening game featuring Chiefs at Bills, Mahomes, Allen.